Jeff Johns, Tim Sheridan, Jeremy Adams, Michael Janin, and Zermanico reveal Martha Wayne's endgame as Thomas confronts his insane wife while Bruce suffers the consequences of messing with hypertime power. Jeff Johns, Tim Sheridan, and Jeremy Adams further build out the Flashpoint world and its ties to Dark Crisis and other events with an issue that kind of clears up a lot of the problems I had with the previous issue, particularly with Martha Wayne just kind of showing up and ending up being the thing behind everything that's happened so far in the series. While I still don't really like that she just kind of showed up just because it felt like they needed to include that character because, you know, with Batman you gotta have a Joker, I did like the idea that the entire Clockwork Killer plot was a big red herring to distract Thomas from what was really happening, even explaining how he couldn't solve the case quickly since he's not a very good detective because his Batman is more violent and prone to just killing people, whereas Bruce, who is the better Batman, would have solved it very quickly. Another thing I really quite enjoyed was the mirroring of Bruce traveling the world to become Batman, whereas his mother Martha on this world as Joker traveled the world and took all of these information from people who could change time, and she's used that to build a time machine. I thought that was kind of a cool inverse, and I liked the idea that she saw what the Joker was on this world and just let him live his happy life. I thought that was quite cool. This issue was also the issue that really tied it into Dark Crisis, or at least the aftermath of Dark Crisis, as we learn Bruce's portions of the book we've seen so far have been set after the Dark Crisis, and he is seemingly trying to get his father out of Flashpoint. It is a lot of stuff to juggle, but Johns, Sheridan, and Adams balance it out really well and even expand on some of the stuff Joshua Williamson built out in Justice League Incarnate and Dark Crisis, going a little bit further to explain certain concepts like hypertime and the Mandela effect that it has in the DC universe. Michael Janin and Zermanico continue to paint the story with their stellar artwork, and Michael in particular finally gets a little bit more time to shine, more than 2 pages per issue, giving us some great tense character moments as important information is delivered through the script. While Zermanico's job this issue was to cover everything in grime and blood and darkness as Thomas and Martha sort out their problems the only way Waynes know how, through violence and hitting each other and just being terrible people to one another, and Zermanico's art just brings all of that to the surface, and it was just brutal and sometimes very hard to watch. Flashpoint Beyond issue 5 explained a lot of the problems I had with the previous issue, and while it didn't alleviate all of the issues I had with the Joker plot swerve that happened in issue 4, the build towards the end point of the story and the connective tissue to the greater canon of the DC universe was wonderful to see. I'm going to give this issue a 7 out of 10. Flashpoint Beyond issue 5 heads 2 days after the Dark Crisis, where the news reports on the Justice League's miraculous return as Mr. Terrific talks with the reporter Miss Chen, telling them all about the Great Darkness and how it corrupted and controlled sentient life and destroyed the Omniverse yet again and altered everything. He goes on to explain what the multiverse is, explaining that it's everything and everything matters. However, Dr. Bonnie Baxter laughs, since the Omniverse is hardly everything, and while it's at the center of the exhaustive crises perpetrated by the Anti-Monitor or Alexander Luthor, Superboy Prime, or the Batman Who Laughs, or even Pryor, it isn't everything, and there are more important things thanks to the infinite number of Earths. She thinks everything only matters when it matters in their hearts, going on to explain that the Omniverse Michael mentioned is only referring to all of space, but not the existence of time, and the Omniverse has been disrupted and transformed before, but afterwards it stabilizes, and this includes their universe, which is the Metaverse, the universe from which all multiverses were born from. Bonnie continues by saying that the Omniverse and the multiverses are conceptual, while hypertime is emotional, and therefore never stagnant because it reacts and changes with them, and at every major personal crossroad, a choice is made and the timeline splits depending on those choices, and a new timeline is born within hypertime, and unlike other parallel Earths, these live forever. She reveals that the Time Masters are the ones who study temporal phenomena within hypertime and police it if they can. Miss Chen reminds Bonnie that people don't really like the Time Masters, being that they are incredibly reckless with time, and even Professor Martin Stein claimed the Time Masters were behind the 0-hour event that altered people's memories across the globe. Bonnie doesn't think that Stein should be trusted, and the Time Masters weren't behind the first crisis in time, which revealed the bridge between the two sides of the divine continuum, an event which also changed the collective history of everyone. She knows that those that travel through time are aware that history is rewritten, but everyone else only ends up with a vague recollection of the past, noting how this is called the Mandela effect. And there are many who have tampered with time on smaller scales, but some almost eradicated everything, like what Extant, Gog, the Flash, albeit unknown to him, Deimos, and Dr. Manhattan have done. Bonnie says that while the skies turn red to indicate the Omniverse is under siege from a great threat, crises involving hypertime remain hidden, and no one knows of the various wars over time because in the aftermath, time paves over them. While Bonnie's interview continues, someone tells Rip Hunter that someone has breached the lab, firing on Rip and everyone else in the lab as bullets smash into his time machine. Mr. Terrific asks how Bonnie knows all of this, so she says that like Michael likes to declare that he's the smartest man on the world, she is the smartest woman. Suddenly, Jeff contacts Bonnie through her wrist communicator, telling her the lab is under attack. Bonnie blips away as elsewhere, the very much alive Ra's al Ghul welcomes Batman into his home, wanting to toast to Batman's return to life after the Dark Crisis. Ra's asks how his grandson is, but Batman knows that he watches his enemies so closely, so he already knows. Ra's, however, reminds him that the boy is his family, and that's all that matters, and it's why they have both committed their lives to making the world better. He slams an urn down on the table, revealing it to be the ashes of Thomas Wayne, the Thomas Wayne who was never supposed to exist, but then he was incinerated by Darkseid's Omega Beams, or at least that's what everyone believed. Batman demands to know how he got it, learning that Ra's knows someone on the Justice League Incarnate team, and he read Walter Kovac's journal as well as some other research he did, knowing Bruce can still save his father, but he hasn't got much time. He shows Bruce a file on the Time Masters and files on Mime and Marionette, as one day after the Flashpoint was recreated, Thomas Wayne speeds towards Arkham, knowing that the Clockwork Killer's plans all along were to keep him distracted while she killed everyone who could change the past. Thomas knows that Bruce would have figured it out faster than him, and that Martha was the key to all of this as Oswald contacts him, telling Thomas that he needs to save Dexter, who went to Arkham to break out his mother. Thomas doesn't care since Martha is his priority, but Oswald reveals that he read the file on Gilda Dent, the one the judge sealed, and that there are in fact two faces to the woman, and one is a darker side to her which Judge Dent covered up so no one would ever know of her crimes, including her children, since Gilda killed her own daughter, and it wasn't a suicide. Oswald screams at his boss, telling him that he believed in what he was doing despite how brutal he was, since he wanted to avenge his son. Thomas remembers how the man who killed his son said it doesn't matter that he was a child that he gunned down, but Oswald knows that Dexter is still alive out there. However, Thomas doesn't think so, and while it won't make sense to Oswald, all of this is going away tonight. Batman smashes through the gates of Arkham as Martha asks Dexter and Gilda if they thought about where jokes come from and how they work, scaring Dexter, who wants to go and leave with his mother. Both sides of Gilda tell him to shut up since they want to hear what Martha has to say, so Martha tells a joke, which is just the story of how her son was killed in a dark alley. Martha gets out her knife, but before she can deliver the punchline, Batman smashes through the window. Thomas attacks his wife, shooting the knife from her hand as he demands to know why she is doing this and why she killed all of those people. Martha slashes Batman's cape with a hidden knife from up her sleeve, telling him that he'll find out soon as Gilda and Dexter make it to an elevator. Gilda returns to normal, thanking her son for helping her, but the Two-Face takes back over, hugging Dexter hard and telling him that they'll be together forever as the elevator doors close. Batman grabs Martha, throwing her back into the cell as the guards rush in. Batman slams the cell door closed, sealing him and his wife in the cell alone as the guards pound on the door to try and get it open. Thomas says that Martha died, but Martha asks if he means when they last met in the cave or 30 years prior in the alley. Martha finds herself wondering that too ever since meeting Psycho Pirate and hearing him talk about Bruce, hearing Roger's rants while she hid in the walls and she made him tell her everything before she killed him. Martha opens up the wall panel, telling Thomas that she knows all about the world where Bruce is Batman and the Joker was a man. Thomas follows his wife down a dark staircase, learning that the male Joker was named Jack Oswald White, whom Martha visited on their world before killing any of the other would-be time travelers, finding him to be a failed comedian on their world and one who was a cleaner at Wayne Casino. However, the man was happy with a family, happier than she and Thomas ever were. Martha says that she let him live though, even making sure he wasn't in Wayne Casino when she blew it up. Martha, however, began to get angry about it as she attacks Bruce from behind, stabbing him as she knows being in Arkham allowed her to tell who was really crazy and who was just acting it, knowing Roger Hayden sounded crazy with his talk of all the other worlds, but Martha will do anything to save her son, and if that means ending this world, she'll do it. Thomas falls through the floor in the room, briefly losing consciousness before realizing he's in another room, one that now holds a time machine. Martha knows that Thomas has questions, revealing that when Thomas left her for dead in the cave, a stream of water took her out of the cave and into the sewers to this place, almost like it was fate, and it was the first place she heard Psycho Pirate's voice, a voice which told her that this world shouldn't exist. Martha says that she hunted down the people who knew how to change time or potentially change time and took everything they knew, leaving a trail to keep Thomas busy, all while she built a time machine using the knowledge she had gained from these people. On Earth Zero, the snow globe Bruce has begins leaking the hyper-timeline as Corky says that Bruce's father will never accept the world that Bruce put him in. Martha meanwhile cocks her gun, telling Thomas that she hates the world as much as he does, and they are going back in time to ensure it's they who die and that Bruce lives, with the only cost being the entire universe needs to die. She wonders what Thomas will choose as Rip Hunter appears before Bruce and Corky, knowing Bruce knows why he's there. Bruce refuses to let him interfere, but Corky reminds him that nothing can stop Rip Hunter, and he did warn the Dark Knight. However, now he's up a certain creek without a paddle.